She was perfect, kind, devoted, loyal, or so I thought. But she was careful. She lied about everything, so I exposed her and took back my life. Hey everyone, we're just beginning this journey, so please consider helping us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. Thank you. Now let's get back to the story. For 11 years, I thought I had everything a man could want. A loving wife, a smart little girl, a job I didn't hate, and a home that smelled like cinnamon in the fall. Her name was Julia. She was the type everyone loved. PTA meetings, charity drives, Sunday roasts, and perfect Instagram posts of homemade lunches and handwritten notes. To outsiders, she was the dream. To me, she was home. We met when I was 28 and she was 26. She worked in marketing. I was just making my way in engineering. She had ambition, charm, and an easy laugh that made strangers feel like old friends. Our daughter, Lily, came 2 years later. Everything clicked. She looked like me, dark hair, same eyes, even my quiet way of watching people before speaking. I never questioned a thing, but over the past year, something changed. Julia became distant, but not cold. That was the trick. She still smiled, still kissed me goodbye, and still cooked dinner. Then one truth unraveled it all, and behind her smile I found a decade of lies. The perfect life. As if everything was rehearsed. She'd laugh at my jokes a beat too early, hug me a second too long. And once, when she thought I wasn't looking, I saw her flinch when I said, "I love you." I told myself I was imagining things, until the debt collectors called. It started with a voicemail. "Hello, this is a courtesy call regarding your overdue balance with Falcon Lending Group. Please contact us immediately to avoid further legal action." I almost deleted it. Figured it was spam, but something stuck in my head. Falcon. That name. I'd heard it before. I opened our filing cabinet and flipped through the folders Julia always kept organized. Neatly labeled, color-coded, except two were missing, F and J. When I asked her about it that night, she smiled like nothing was wrong. "Oh, I was reorganizing some things. Probably misplaced them." It was the kind of answer that shouldn't have bothered me, but it did. That weekend, while she took Lily to ballet, I checked our joint accounts. Nothing unusual. Then I checked our home equity line. It had been tapped. $27,000 withdrawn over the past 14 months. I never saw a dollar. I checked our credit report. There were 2 cards in my name I didn't recognize, and another under hers, maxed out. That night, I watched her sleep beside me. Her face was peaceful, serene, like someone who hadn't just set fire to our life. The next morning, I called my friend Greg. He's a financial analyst who once helped me straighten out my taxes. "Greg," I said, "I think I'm being lied to." He showed up that afternoon with his laptop, a frown, and 2 cups of coffee. 3 hours later, he looked up from my table and said, "You're not crazy, and she's not broke. She's hiding something bigger." I couldn't sleep that night. Greg had left hours ago, but his words kept looping through my head. She's hiding something bigger. What could be bigger than tens of thousands in secret debt? And then a memory hit me, one I'd buried years ago. When Lily was born, my mother made a comment, half joking, half not. "She doesn't look much like you, does she?" I'd laughed. Everyone had laughed. And yet, it never really left me. Now, I couldn't ignore it. The next morning, I called our pediatrician's office and requested a copy of Lily's full medical file. Julia had always handled that stuff, so I expected questions. But there were none. The file came via encrypted email within the hour. Blood type, B+. Mine was O. Julia's was A+. It didn't add up. That afternoon, I picked Lily up from school. We got ice cream. We laughed. We talked about her drawings, her favorite teacher, and a book she loved. Then I asked if I could keep a strand of her hair for a project. She giggled and said, "You're so weird, Dad," but gave it to me anyway. Greg knew a lab. We sent in the samples the next day. 10 business days later, the results came in. Probability of paternity, 0%. I sat there, reading the words over and over. I'd always thought betrayal would feel like fire. But this was ice. I stared out the window for a long time, numb. Then I closed the report, stood up, and finally whispered, "Okay." It's a strange thing, realizing your whole life has been a story someone else wrote. A bad one, a lie held together by routines, distractions, and your own refusal to ask the wrong questions. I went back through everything, old photos, old texts, even memories. Every family trip, every moment I thought was real. I saw it all differently now. Julia's kindness is strategic, her affection, rehearsed, her honesty, non-existent. Even the way she let me carry the weight of every bill, every responsibility, while she managed the home, all of it was part of the illusion. Lily, my Lily, the one who called me Dad, who I tucked in every night, whom I taught to ride a bike. She wasn't mine, but she also didn't lie to me, not knowingly. And that would make what came next so much harder. I didn't confront Julia. I couldn't, not yet. Instead, I called Vanessa, an attorney Greg recommended, sharp as a razor and calm as stone. She listened to everything without blinking. "You want to destroy her," she said flatly. "No," I replied. "I want the truth to cost her, finally." Vanessa nodded. "Then we start with the paperwork." Over the next few weeks, I became a ghost in my own home. Julia didn't notice, or didn't care. She was preoccupied, always texting, always slipping away on errands. I didn't ask questions anymore. I just watched, learned, tracked. Vanessa helped me move our joint funds legally into a protected account. We rerouted assets. I changed my direct deposit, opened a private P.O. box, moved a few sentimental things to a storage unit across town. I even started sleeping in the guest room, citing work stress. She didn't protest. I took pictures of everything. Her unopened bills, her burner phone I found in the laundry, the hotel receipts I retrieved from her car's glove box. Every lie, every misstep, all time-stamped, archived. Greg helped me run a full audit. We found even more. Loans I'd never approved. A second phone line billed under her maiden name. And the most damning, a hidden PayPal account linked to anonymous payments labeled consulting. Vanessa prepared the initial filing quietly. Once everything was secured and in place, she looked at me and said, "When you drop this, it's going to hit her like a building. Are you ready?" I nodded. She built it, let her stand under it. It happened on a Thursday. I'd taken the day off work and arranged for Lily to stay overnight at a friend's. Julia came home from one of her long errands, humming as she entered the kitchen. She didn't even notice the envelope at first. I sat at the dining table, calm, unmoving. "What's this?" she asked, picking up the thick manila packet. "Read it," I said. My voice didn't shake. She opened it and began skimming the pages. Her expression shifted, from curiosity to confusion to something I'll never forget. Fear. "What is this?" she said again, now whispering. "Everything," I replied. "The financial lies, the fake accounts, the hotel receipts, and finally the paternity test." She didn't cry, not immediately. Instead, she dropped the papers and sat down slowly, like her knees had stopped working. "I can explain," she breathed. "I don't care," I said. She tried again. "It was a mistake. I didn't know." "No," I interrupted. "You did know. You've known for years." She looked down. "What happens now?" I stood up. "Now you call your lawyer." And I walked out. That evening, Vanessa served her formally. Divorce proceedings were in motion. Thanks to the mountain of documentation, the court was in my favor from the start. I retained the house, froze our joint accounts, seized the vehicles, and secured custody rights for visitation with Lily, not as her father, legally, but as the man who raised her. Julia's reputation crumbled quickly. Word spread fast. PTA moms talk. Her friends vanished, her job performance slipped, the mask was off, and there was nothing underneath. And I slept for 10 hours that night, for the first time in years. I was the father who wasn't. The hardest part wasn't exposing Julia. It was Lily. She was innocent. She didn't choose any of this. And though biology had shattered my claim, my love for her hadn't changed. That first weekend after the divorce was filed, I called Julia to schedule time with Lily. She hesitated, probably hoping to use our daughter as leverage. "You know the court hasn't decided visitation yet," she said. "You know I raised her," I replied, "and you know she'll ask where I am. Do you really want to be the one to explain that?" There was a pause, then, "Fine, but just dinner." That first dinner was awkward. Lily seemed confused, like she'd been kept out of something she could feel but not name. But as the night went on, she relaxed. She told me about school, friends, and a book she wanted. I listened, smiled, tried not to cry. When I dropped her off, she hugged me tighter than usual. "Love you, Dad," she whispered, and I almost broke, not because she wasn't mine, but because I still wanted to be hers. Over time, Julia's attempts to restrict visits faded. Whether it was guilt, pressure from her attorney, or just exhaustion, I didn't care. I saw Lily every week, helped with homework, showed up at school events. Never once let her feel the fracture I lived with daily. But inside, it festered. I asked myself constantly, what kind of man raises another man's child without knowing? What kind of woman allows it? The answer was simple. A good man. And a liar. And I had been both. After the final court date, I drove straight to the coast. No plans, no suitcase, just the sound of tires humming beneath me and the unfamiliar comfort of making a decision for myself. The air was cold, the kind that wakes you up. I stood on a rocky overlook watching the waves crash for what felt like hours. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilt, or anger, or confusion. I just felt done. The following weeks were a blur of stillness. I got back into running. Spent hours at the gym not to punish myself, but to feel my body again. I cleared out every drawer Julia had ever touched. I painted the kitchen. I changed the locks. I reclaimed the silence of my own home. People asked if I'd start dating. I smiled and said maybe. But the truth was, I wasn't looking for anyone. I was just learning how to be alone without being lonely. One night, I found myself scrolling through old photos. Birthdays, vacations, smiles that now looked staged. I didn't cry, but I did stop on one photo, Lily on her first bike, me holding the seat behind her, both of us laughing like the world hadn't lied yet. Do I miss Julia? No, not even a little. What I struggle with is forgiving myself. Not for leaving, but for staying so long. For every time I told myself things would get better. For every excuse I made in her name. For believing her rehearsed love over my gut. And maybe that's the final piece. Not healing from what she did to me, but from what I let happen to myself. And day by day, rep by rep, mile by mile, I am. 2 months after the divorce was finalized, Julia showed up at my door. She looked thinner, nervous, carrying herself like someone who'd practiced a speech all night and wasn't sure if it would land. "Can we talk?" she asked. I said nothing and just stepped aside. She walked into the living room like it still belonged to her. She talked. About Lily. About her mistakes. About regret. She said things like, "I never meant for it to go that far," and "You were the best thing that ever happened to me." She cried. I didn't. Then she asked something that stunned me. "Do you think we could ever try again?" I stared at her for a long time, then said quietly, "No." She blinked. "Why not? I know I messed up, but I've changed." I shook my head. "It's not about change. It's about truth. You broke it so many times, there's nothing left to rebuild." She stood in silence for a moment, then turned and walked out without another word, and I closed the door, softly. like a full stop at the end of a sentence. Sometimes I wonder if she ever really loved me, or if I was just convenient, a foundation for the life she wanted to present to the world. But that question doesn't keep me up at night anymore. What I know is this: I was loyal, I was present, I was kind, and that's enough. The man I was, the one who ignored red flags, silenced his instincts, and made peace with betrayal, he's gone, and in his place is someone I recognize, someone stronger, someone whole.